correct?
Yes.
And your first name, sir?
Keith.
Your full name is Keith Temple.
Yes.
Where do you vote?
Duval County.
Are you a registered voter there?
Yes.
On November the 7th of year 2000, did you vote for George W. Bush as president?
Yes, I did.
Or for the electors for George W. Bush? Have you had any kind of certification as to how your vote was counted?
No, I have not.
Do you want to be sure that you are on an equal standing with everyone else in the state as to whether or not your vote was correctly counted?
Yes.
And if your county is not counted, are you assured that you're going to be on the same standing as the individual voters in the 3 counties that are the subject matter of this lawsuit, primarily Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, and Broward County?
No.
Are you a taxpayer in the state of Florida? If you're alive, you're a taxpayer.
Yes.
Are you a taxpayer? That's all I have, Your
All right. Myers, did you have a witness? The witness stand down and be excused if there's no inquiry.
Right,
Thank you,
just
Mr.
one
Temple.
inquiry, Your Honor.
Oh, yes, sir.
Sir, did you file a protest in this election?
No, I did not.
Did you know you had a right to do that?
No, I did not.
Did you file a contest in this election?
No, I did not.
You know you had a right to do that?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
You are allowed to intervene on the basis of a petition to declare the manual recount statute unconstitutional, were you not?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
You were allowed to intervene by the judge in this court on the basis of your petition to declare the manual recount statute unconstitutional. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Did you have? All right, may this witness then, Mr. Temple, may he stand down and be excused? Without objection. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, at this
All right,
time I call Teresa Cruz to the stand.
Ask her to come forward and be sworn.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give on this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, you may proceed.
What is your name, please?
Teresa Cruz, C-R-U-C-E.
And you're the same Teresa Cruz that is listed as an intervener in this action?
Yes, sir.
And you live in Panama City, Bay County, Florida, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you voted before November 7, 2000, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And how did you do that?
I went into the Supervisor of Elections office and voted because I was going to be out of town on Election Day, and I cast my ballot that day.
Were you a member of the military at the time?
Yes, I was.
So was this done through the military absentee or just a normal absentee ballot?
It was. I'm not sure what it was. I did fill out the ballot. I don't know how it is categorized, but it, I was there and turned it into the Supervisor of Elections in person.
And you don't know if your vote counted because you don't know if anybody physically looked at your ballot, right?
I do not know.
And then at some point, you came to be in Bay County on the evening of the election, is that right?
I had a conflict in my schedule. I was driving back to Panama City on 267. I could get channel 87.75, which is CBS, and it was around the news time. I don't know the exact time, but it was around 6:15 or 6:20, and I heard that Florida had been called for Gore. I heard the polls were closed in Florida, and I was very, very upset. I switched to another channel, NPR. They had also called the polls in Florida being closed, and being in the Central Time Zone, I knew the polls closed at 7, and this was like 6:15 in the Central Time Zone. I was so upset, I just couldn't say anything for 15 not 15, but about 5 minutes. And then I called my mother on my cell phone. So there is a record on my cell phone bill, which has already been mailed out. I don't have it with me, but it shows the time. And my mother, she had heard on ABC. That's hearsay, but she did hear that it had been called.
Had you paid attention to what was going on in the election up to that point?
Yes, I had.
And have you paid strict attention since that time to everything that's gone on in the election?
As close as I can.
And who do you know was the company that was responsible for the early call in Florida? Do you know?
I do not know.
Wasn't it Voter News Service?
I don't know.
All right. Would you tell the judge, last question, would you tell the judge why you as a voter in Bay County are concerned about this election contest that's going on in Lee County?
I do know that I know of a person that worked at some polls, and there was a definite change in the polls and the turnout, and for a major election, you know, it's surprising of that. And I know of one other person that did actually not go to vote, and I believe she's going to testify. I do know of other people saying they knew of people that did not vote because they heard the polls were closed, and they didn't think it made any difference because it had already been called for Gore.
So you know there were valid votes that would have been made had the call not been made at least 40 minutes before the polls closed?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Did anybody tell you, like your lawyer or anybody, that you had a right to protest this election?
Objection calls for privileged information.
Okay. Did anybody tell you on your cell phone or otherwise that you could protest this election?
Objection to the extent it calls for privileged information.
I don't understand the basis of the woman could protest.
The last question was not related to any advice of counsel, as I
That's correct.
understand it.
Well, he
Yes.
said anybody, Your Honor. Did
All right.
anybody tell you?
Anybody other than
your
counsel?
tell you you could protest this
Your Honor,
election.
there's no statutory basis for her to protest.
Yes,
The
there
same
is.
way with the last witness. I mean, it may make a good press, but it makes no sense. She can't.
We don't
She
think
protest.
we don't think there's a statutory basis for it either, but it provides in the statute that an elector can file a protest, whether it's any good or not.
Not a protest, as I'm to read the statute, it's a candidate, is that not, or does it say? Well, no, it's a any elector and or a candidate.
And an elector is a voter.
Your Honor, unless I'm missing the import of the pleadings that have been filed here, the position that is being taken by the interveners is that in terms of the totality of the circumstances in a voting contest, one of the things that should be taken into consideration by the court, since I'm sure the plaintiffs are going to be arguing very strongly equity, every vote should count except of course the ones in Nassau County and a couple of other places, that they're going to be making a strong equitable argument, and the position of the interveners is that the equity should also be considered for all the voters who did not vote because the election was called early.
I understand that, but his question was simply, did she understand that she had a right under the statute to file a protest? And I believe the witnesses said she did not.
I did not.
Okay, all right. Do you have any other questions?
And also the contest, I presume you didn't know you had a right to do that.
I did not.
Okay.
I don't want to reply to that about technicals and so on. We spent days arguing, they argued the other side of this. So.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Your Honor?
Any other questions of Ms. Cruz? If not, may she stand down?
She may, Your Honor.
Thank you.
At this time, we call Jeanette Seymour.
Ask her to come forward and be sworn.
Please raise your right. You do solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give in this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Be seated. You may proceed.
Would you please state your name?
Jeanette Seymour.
And Ms. Seymour, you currently live in Navarre, Santa Rosa County, Florida, don't you?
Correct.
And you're a taxpayer there?
I am.
And you were registered and qualified to vote in the 2000 presidential election in that county, weren't you?
I was.
Were you present in that county during the times that the polls were open?
I was.
Did you ever take the time to drive to the poll to vote for president?
During the daytime I worked. My plan was to go at 5 o'clock when I got off. I was delayed a little bit. It was closer to 6 when I got off from work, and on the way to the polls, my husband called me and told me that it was over, that it had been announced that Gore had won and there was no point to vote. And so I turned around and went home.
Did you have plenty of time before the poll closed in order to go cast your vote?
I did.
Did you intend to vote for a presidential candidate when you got there?
I did.
Would you tell the judge why you, a Santa Rosa County resident, are concerned about this election contest proceeding over here in Leon County.
Because the media made a mistake and called the vote early, there's a lot of votes that were not counted, not just in the, my area, but the whole panhandle of Florida that should have counted. Whether they were for Bush or whether they were for Gore, they should have counted. And, you know, other than the machines being, whether they were actually not working or not maintained correctly, that was out of the voters' hands, and so was this. It dilutes my vote.
And are you aware that your attorneys have filed a request with the court